Hello, everyone. This is Barb with Best of Barb Wellness. And today I am here with my two cohort coaches, Beverly and Jade. And we're going to be touching upon a very, very important topic, almost like a hot topic, if you want to say, and that is sleep. So, how many of us, first of all, can say that we actually get a good night's sleep, at least a couple of times a week?
Yeah.
I would kind of hedge a bet to say that not many of us can say that, right?
No, yeah. And the definition of a good night's sleep, is it 8 hours? Is it 6 hours, right?
Yeah. I mean, good sleep can be elusive to some and a hope and a prayer to others. So, many of us are living on sleep deprivation at best. So, ladies, today we are going to kind of dive in a little bit deeper into the reasons that we may not be getting enough good sleep. So I'd like to start with you, Bev. What would you say would be the few key reasons that someone is perhaps not getting a good night's sleep?
I think, well, there's, so many reasons, whether it's something you've been eating, something you've been drinking during the day. But and I think people don't appreciate the impact of all the screen time that we have. And having your cell phone in particular, the devices that are close to your face have such a huge impact. And I've done the research myself on my own little sleep patterns. And I love to play little games on my iPad, or on my phone in the evening as I'm sort of chilling out, and I'll do word games on it. And when I stop that about an hour and a half or so before bed, my sleep is very different. If not, what happens is I wake up in the middle of the night because it really interrupts your circadian rhythm, and it just messes up your mind and your whole sequencing within that. So that is so huge. And people say, yeah, I agree. And they still have their phone in their hand, right? We are, as a society, are becoming so attached to our devices. And, maybe it's, we do need them. And there's probably lots of reasons why those are causing us our challenges, not just with our sleep. But, watching a little TV is probably better than having that device up close, or just even here, like in your lap kind of thing. Another big issue for a number of people is just like ritualizing their sleep. I was surprised to learn how many people struggle falling asleep. So maybe they think, I'm going to have a little shot of whiskey or a glass of wine, and that'll help me fall asleep. And it may kind of chill you at that moment, but it won't keep you asleep, right? It in fact interferes with your sleep. Caffeine in particular for women have a tremendous trouble absorbing caffeine, right? It really can interfere. I was out for dinner with family the other night, and my nephew was having a coffee, and he said, oh no, I'll drink coffee right up to bedtime. Doesn't bother me. So I think the biggest thing is just knowing yourself and what impacts you, what doesn't impact you. So maybe coffee for me would keep me awake for a week, and somebody else it's not. So it's really knowing yourself and ritualizing your bedtime habits.
Yeah, I like that. It's like a power down hour.
Yeah.
That's what I do for my own sleep. And being able to, because the screen obviously is off, the work is done, and having that. I also find making a bat cave, all the research on sleep, the dark as you can go, the better for your circadian rhythm.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And to be exposed to light at the beginning of the day, those first few minutes of waking, right? If you can, like that within that first hour, if you can have some bright sunlight as some exposure to that, it resets you to think, okay, this is wake up time. You think of your babies, for those of you that have raised babies, right? Remember when they had their days and nights confused? Because I think every baby goes through that at some point.
Yeah,
And
they're on their own schedule.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I want to go back to what you said, Bev, with regards to like caffeine or perhaps even eating late. And you had mentioned that your nephew, I believe you said, he said, "Oh, that doesn't bother me." But I think it just plays to the fact that people don't understand or know what to look for
Mm.
with what is interrupting their sleep. So they may wake up the next morning like, foggy or tired, and they have no explanation for it. And they don't link it to, well, geez, maybe it was that cup of coffee or that glass of wine or the late night, on my phone.
100%.
They either don't put the two together, or they want to stay blissfully ignorant, if I may be so bold to say that.
Or they're so used to it. That's what I notice with my clients when we start looking at their routines and their patterns, and they're like, oh yeah, I always wake up groggy. Well, what do you do the day before? What do you do the night before? Oh, I'll start modifying it and see if I feel better the next morning, because we're looking at a morning routine. But you're right, sometimes it's so common they wake up groggy.
sadly,
Yeah.
so many of us have gotten used to feeling like crap all the time. And so you don't know what it's like to feel well. And so it's very hard to, and I've tried this with clients, to have them do a little experiment for a few days and alter some things and then see what you feel like. But, waking up with a little bit of a headache in the morning is a real indication that you haven't slept well. Like when that headache goes away after a few minutes, you just haven't been sleeping well throughout that. And when you then feel what good sleep is like, recently I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, severe sleep apnea, and started on some support for that, some CPAP therapy. And it was crazy to me. It was like, what do you mean I don't get up at night to pee 4 times? I just thought that was what I did because I'm older now, that I'm, postmenopausal, and I get up to pee 4 times at night. Well, turns out I don't have to.
Yeah.
And that's an indication when you're not sleeping well, you're not getting, your body's not getting into that deep REM state, your hormonal and body balances of everything. You're not concentrating your urine, so you're getting up to pee all night. And I used to get up to pee. I could set a clock getting up to pee. And now I pee, maybe once a night. Which is,
TMI.
Yeah.
TMI,
And
folks, sorry for that.
but you know what?
And we
that
don't
is so key. That is
It
so
is.
key, because a lot of, especially women, we tend to ignore that. It's just something that I do. And like you said, that, oh, I'm just getting older. Or it becomes a habit, just like getting up and brushing your teeth in the morning or whatever. It becomes a habit that we just, get used to. Oh well, that's just me, right? But it's
Yeah, it's the
not.
normal. You're thinking that it's a normal. However, without breaking it down like we do with our clients, of saying, well, let's take a look. How can you make your sleep better? Because how many other things, which is, still on the same topic, are affected because of sleep not being optimal, whatever that means, 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, the stress that it creates in your everyday life.
And that was the next question that I was actually going to ask, is how many hours of sleep is deemed healthy or optimal, like you said? Because I know you mentioned like 7, 8, 9 hours. Yet you have some people who say, oh, I
4
only
hours.
sleep 4 hours, 5 hours. And they wear it like a badge and they say, I'm fine. But are they really?
Until they're 60 and 70 and have multiple health issues because they haven't been sleeping so well all those years, right?
Exactly.
So that is the
Exactly.
question, Barb. What do you recommend to your clients?
I recommend, I actually do recommend, funny enough, is between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. That's what works best for me. I mean, optimally, I mean, it's very rare that I get 9, but usually I'm at about 7.5, 8 hours. And I find that that takes me through the day, greatly. Like it just, that is exactly what I need. And I notice quite a bit if I go 7 or lower, or on the opposite end, if I happen to sleep too late, because again, that messes with that circadian rhythm, right? And so you have to find, I guess, what works for you. But I mean, all of the science out there and all of the research and the testing in sleep centers, they all give that 7 to 9 hour window. And so I can comfortably say that, that works for me. How about you ladies? What does that?
Well, I say the same, because it's also, it's our time for rest and recovery. When I'm working with athletes, for instance, and they have muscle repairing going on, or, if somebody has been under the weather, you likely need more sleep to recoup, and just rejuvenate your body. Right.
Yeah.
But again, it depends. On my badge of honor, 5.5 hours, I was very proud, and I was still able to go and go and go. You hit the 50s, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll get 6.5 hours now.
The going is gone.
Well, and the going gets gone, back to Beverly's comment, right? It'll show up somewhere in our life, and it's a lot less expensive to make these choices and habits now than it is later, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go on to something really positive, and something good out there. Is that, what are the benefits of good quality sleep, Bev?
Oh gosh, there's, everything. So if you're trying to maintain just some homeostasis within your body, you do need to have good sleep. And for half of the world, it seems, is trying to lose weight, right? That seems to be the big thing. I've got extra
Yep.
pounds that I'm carrying. Well, without proper sleep, you actually will not be able to release any weight, right? You're fighting an uphill battle with that. So you can be Sally Do Right all day long, eating nothing but veggies all day long. But if you don't have good sleep, your body is not going to be stable enough to release weight. Your memory is improved dramatically. And if you look through the lifespan, right, babies, right, like when you think about babies, oh heaven, or toddlers, a toddler that misses their nap in the afternoon, or it gets put to bed late at night. I think you've all lived through those things, right?
Yeah.
Teenagers who think that they can, live off of, teenagers need longer periods of sleep through the life cycle. We need different amounts of sleep, I believe, at different times, and they need a longer amount of sleep, and they don't get it. So you see it in their schoolwork, their inattention, right? Those folks that might have a bit, I get a bit squirrely, oh, look at this, it's very hard to focus. So I find I'm much sharper and on the ball, and just excited to do things during the day when you've had good sleep.
Yeah.
Jade,
And
what about you?
yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Your thoughts?
Well, it's getting, into that regulated blood sugar. Beverly had talked about, the losing weight or gaining lightness, however you want to word it. When you don't have proper sleep, you don't have the proper hormone insulin balance going on. And yeah, it does. Proper sleep improves your mental function. Nowadays there's so much coming at you. You want to be able to keep that on top. Your mental clarity, I guess, is the word. And for me, it always comes down to my immune system.
Yeah.
when I sleep good,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
healthy. And I
Yes.
haven't been sick in a long, long time, and I will attribute it to better sleep.
And I know that, for people who are active, either are in a sport or anything like that, I mean, to get enough sleep, allow the muscles to rest and recuperate and regenerate and strengthen, so that their performances on a daily basis
Yes.
are only sharpened, as
Yeah,
opposed to,
for the recovery.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, what tips then can we offer our audience on how to achieve better sleep? What can we say to them, Jade?
Well, I'm going to go back to the quality of the sleep environment. My husband loves night lights and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I want it dark, because for me, that darkness means sleep, and my body goes with that. And, and it's having a peaceful, going to bed with a clear mind. And, I alluded to the power down hour. That was a great practice, bringing into mind, my night,
Mhm.
because then that allowed me to write down my worries, clear my mind. So that's what gives me a better sleep, is that power down hour is my environment, I guess you'd say.
Mhm.
How about
How
you,
about
Beverly?
yourself, Bev?
Yeah, and I agree with that totally, having that anticipate when your bedtime's coming and work towards that. I also find just the stress that we live in each and every day gets overwhelming. So managing your
Mhm.
stress through the day, and some of that happens just by being aware, like Jade talked about, writing down her worries. So when
Yeah.
you have that in the front of your mind, that you can be aware that you have these things troubling you. And if they're just sitting back in the unconscious, they're the things that are going to keep you up at night. And if you do find that you're, settled into bed and thinking, okay, it's 10:30 or 11 or whatever your bedtime is, and after a half hour or 45 minutes, you haven't slept and you're tossing and turning, get the heck out of that bed and go sit somewhere quiet and flip through a magazine or do something, write things down. Just get out of that bed for a minute and break that. Your bed should be for sleeping, not for worrying.
Mhm.
And just my last little word on that is, I totally believe, strong sleep equals strong and healthy in body and mind.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to add on to that is the going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. It's so funny because my husband always used to tease me, and he still does sometimes. And he says, oh, you're on such a regular schedule. You go to bed at 11, and you're so rigid, and you don't stray from that. And I'm like, yeah, because that works for me.
Yeah.
That is the way my body functions. That at the 11th hour, I have to go to sleep, which allows me to wake up without an alarm clock, just naturally at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And, this just gets my body into that regular rhythm, which is what we need to function through our day, every day, for as long as we live. Again, it's that circadian rhythm. So,
Well, and one thing I would like to add to this conversation is exercise. Exercising during the day.
Absolutely.
A lot of people will go to the gym at night after dinner, and it's like, what are you doing? But if you can exercise during the day, that will help your sleep as well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk about that, because I can just hear some of those people saying, like, well, nobody's going to tell me that I can't work out after work because that's the only time that I have. And that's fine if you allow yourself enough time between working out, allowing yourself, that a lighter dinner, so that you have that space in between working out and dinner to have your body calm down and get ready for bed, so that when you do get to bed, you're not going to bed with a full stomach. And so now we're getting into the whole, you're not digesting properly, etc. Like that's a whole other topic of conversation as
Next
it is.
time.
But any movement, going for walks, or some people either don't like exercise, or their body is unable to exercise for whatever reason. And so just walking, any kind of movement, just stretching, hands over the head, like bending from side to side, or any kind of movement that you can make, at least in the beginning, until you get into a regular exercise routine, is so important for sleep, amongst other things.
100%.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, Bev, Jade, do you have any last comments before we wrap things up?
No.
For me, I just want to say, I just reinforce again that I think we underestimate the power of sleep. We take it for granted. And especially those that are, the working age, and those people with young families. You're trying to cram so much into your day. We take sleep for granted, and you think you're going to go to your bed. And sometimes people go to their bed, that expression, I fell asleep before my head hit the pillow. That may be
Yes.
not always a good sign, right? That's a sign that you're darn exhausted.
Exhaustion.
Right. And so I think having that balance, and I know, Jade, you have a really nice routine, right, of bed and early morning exercise. And so you go to bed earlier than most people, but it's because you wake up early and do your exercise, and you have so much energy from doing that. And so I think
100%.
and each person finding what works for them, but it's that really looking at it and not taking it for granted, because sleep is precious, precious.
Yeah, we all have the same 24 hours, and time is our greatest resource. So how we use that includes sleep.
Exactly.
And years ago, I used to do shift work. And so what I learned then was, when I did night shift, I actually slept better. I liked sleeping during the day. And when I worked day shifts, those 12-hour days, I'd be going to work exhausted all the time. And it's because I was coming home at 7:30, 8 o'clock, getting all dolled up to either go out for dinner with someone, or go to a movie, or do things, having those expectations, right? Whereas when I worked nights, I didn't have any expectations of that, other than come home, have something to eat, and go to sleep. And at the nighttime was when I had to set my alarm to get me up, right? Because I would sleep through. And so poor shift workers have a terrible time.
They sure do.
It's knowing your
Absolutely.
need and your body. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the most important thing is listen to your body. Listen intuitively to what it's telling you. Whether you're waking up in the middle of the night, whether you're waking up in the morning exhausted, your body is telling you something.
Yes.
Listen now.
Just be more aware of
Yeah.
what's going on.
And willing to try one little thing to change your pattern.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well said.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. This has been a very enlightening conversation. And hopefully another one for the books. Yes. And hopefully those out there have gotten some good tips and ideas to maybe get them into a better sleep habit and sleep cycle. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me. And
thanks,
we
Barb.
will see you in the next round. Yeah.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.